Good morning on this Thursday, the 30th of July, and today I'm actually at Trinity Beach, I think it is, North Cairns. I'm tucked in behind this row of mangroves. I've been walking down the beach talking to one of our former students who rang me up with some really good news. And as I was walking down the beach, I hadn't noticed how quickly the tide was coming in, and I got trapped in here. I'm sitting, I'm just thinking about wildlife, and in the stretch of North Cairns, there's some wildlife you really don't want to meet. But yet everything was safe, and it was just a wonderful evening, rejoicing in what God does in people's lives, even when things appeared to be devastating. And that I think leads into the reading. Today I'm actually using the Old Testament reading out of the daily lectionary for the 30th of July. And I thought I'd do this as something a little bit different. And I may do this a little bit more as time goes on. It is a set of readings that makes you look through the whole Bible. One of the problems I've noticed with the readings that I have been using is they tend to focus on a couple of select chapters. There's almost one book in Old Testament, one psalm, and a couple of epistles, and mainly Matthew's Gospel, without actually giving us access to the richness of the Bible. So today I thought I'd read, as the reading for the 30th of July states, Isaiah chapter 14, verses 1 and 2. And this is a fairly unusual passage, and I actually want to bring out an old commentator's question as well. The Lord will once again be merciful to his people Israel and choose them as his own. He will let them live in their own land, and foreigners will come and live there with them. Many nations will help the people of Israel return to the land which the Lord gave them. And there the nations will serve Israel as slaves. Those who once captured Israel will now be captured by Israel, and the people of Israel will rule over those who once oppressed them. Okay, try not to read it too literally, because remember this is a prophetic word, so it's actually using picture language. But what I find fascinating is that it actually fits into the surrounding two chapters talk about Babylon, about God restoring Israel from being captured by Babylon. Now, Isaiah lived at a time that was way too early for Babylon. Yeah, Babylon was a rising power, but the nation they were directly worried about in his time was Assyria, to the immediate north, and not to the northeast. And the preceding chapters actually talk about prophetic messages about Assyria, about what's going to happen, about God's judgment on the nation, and about God's promise of restoration. And this thing about, in this passage, again, the Lord will be merciful to Israel. And John Calvin, in his commentary on Isaiah, asked the question in this particular passage, was there a time when God didn't have compassion, didn't have mercy on Israel? And the answer is no. That even the judgments of God, when things fall apart, God uses this for correction. And it is really, really hard to see. Because in those moments when our lives are falling apart, or they've fallen apart and somebody's stomping on the ashes, it's really hard to see how God can be compassionate. When somebody's got a family member that's suffering serious illness, it's really, really hard. When all you really want deep inside you is for them to be better, to see them struggle and suffer. You've got a choice at those times, either to become angry at the situation, become bitter at the situation, or, as I said yesterday about not knowing how to pray, just offer it over to God and continue to do that. I've got to confess, when I do that, quite often I'll hand it over to God and then take it straight back. And a lot of us are like that. So that the anger and the bitterness just grows there. But well before the people of Babylon became a problem to Isaiah's people, God gave them a message of hope. So that no matter how hard the circumstances, even when it results in death and destruction, as it did in this case with Isaiah, God is still able to show mercy. Now, Isaiah's talking about mercy in ways that people at the time could understand here, that things would be restored. But even if they are restored, there's still loss, there's still grief. There's still scars from some of the things that have happened in our past. You know, it may be physical ones. I've got a couple of nice surgical ones, which I'm not going to show you on camera. Except maybe that one, which doesn't show up, I've noticed. There may be psychological scars, there may be spiritual scars. The promise that we have is that God will restore us. And our hope is that it will happen in this life. But the ultimate hope we have as Christians, not to put up with injustice here and now, is that eventually in eternity all will come well. And why this picture is significant, at the moment that I'm caught by the waves and wondering, oh, I'm going to get soaked, I'm on the phone, is it going to be safe? Retreated through the mangroves, hoping there was a path, and there was, thankfully. But while I was talking to this former student, the student was talking about their life and how things had always seemed to have gone wrong for them, and that they'd just been offered a wonderful opportunity to work and to share the gospel. And for them, it was a return to, as they realised, to a call that they received many years ago, but couldn't take it up at that particular time. If your life is in ashes, if somebody's been stomping on the ashes, remember, God has never lost compassion for you and never fails to show us mercy. Hang on to that hope as a light in the darkness, as a light at the end of the tunnel. Reach out to God and continue to put your pain, your anguish in his hands, now and always. Amen.